Have you got one of those in your house? This is a Moka Espresso. It's one of the most ingenious Italian inventions, and today I'll be making a video which is made up of 5 parts. I'll tell you a little bit about the history of the Moka Espresso machine, who invented. Also, I'll tell you how it works. Then I'll do you a little demo to show you how it works. Then I'm going to make the perfect cup of espresso coffee, and then I'll also give you some tips in terms of maintenance and cleaning. This is a very simple piece of engineering, and it's made of only a few parts, and it was invented in 1933 by a gentleman called Alfonso Bialetti. Mr. Bialetti was born in 1888, and in his youth moved to France, and he started working with metal, and that is when aluminium was introduced, and he loved it. And when he returned to Italy in 1920, he opened his own workshop, and in 1933 he invented this beautiful little machine, and it's the simplest thing but most ingenious. And amazingly, the prototype, which was built in 1933, is almost identical to this. So how does it work? So this lower chamber is filled with water, and it needs to be filled just below the safety valve over here. Then this gets filled with coffee. I'll tell you later how to do it.
Oh, I've just realised I've been doing it wrong. It's supposed to be under the...
Just under, yes.
Is it?
Yes,
Do you know, I've been
under.
putting too much.
I'll explain safety aspects as well. Then this goes on the hob, and eventually the water will get hot. Pressure will build in the lower chamber, and pressure will push the water up, and it's really going to be really hot water. The water will go through the coffee, and then eventually it finds its way out here, and you get coffee. It's a very simple and ingenious way of doing it, of course. He got the idea, by the way, by observing his washing machine, and back then washing machines used to use steam. And he thought, actually, if water can go with steam through clothes, and I was to replace the clothes with coffee, I might get coffee. And he was right. But before we make the perfect cup of coffee, I want to give you a little demo. And I spent a little time thinking about this, and I've built a little prototype, and I'm sure that Mr. Bialetti will be proud of it. So I'm going to show you what I've done first. Here is a bottle which represents the lower part of the Moka espresso machine over here. I will be working with cold water, so I will be using a balloon to effectively replicate the pressure. And then I've got here a little pipe, which I'm trying to be as closely as possible aligned to the original design. And this is a very little Moka machine. I've got the cap of a milk bottle with a hole, and I will insert this over here. I'm going to blow my balloon before I forget. I can see Julie's face. She thinks it's going to explode.
I'm thinking, what the hell is he doing?
Any idea of what I'm doing, by the way. I just asked her if she would film me, so she's probably just as curious as you are. So I've got a little water here, and this is cold water. Blue tack comes later. So I'm going to be putting some water here just to replicate what we do in the lower chamber. That's enough. This is red food dye, and I've decided to add some in so that we get to see better what happens.
Crumbs. Now my worry is that if something goes wrong and this goes everywhere, that I'm going to have red food dye staining everything.
Here is
and you will be in the doghouse, let me be clear.
Here is my... this is the cap from the bottle, by the way, and I fed the pipe through, and it goes all the way to the top chamber. And I'm going to screw this clockwise, replicating what the Moka machine does.
May I point out, this is a little Moka pot that we bought on the market in Sicily, oh my God, for years and years, and possibly even pre-children. And it's not in the greatest condition, so I don't really want to use it for coffee anymore, but I'm happy for him to ruin it if he needs to for this.
I don't ruin anything. I just, this is science. What are you talking about? And the lid is on, and everything is tight. And yes, things are gonna get a little bit messy just to manage Julie's expectations. But what I'll do, I will be replicating the build-up of steam. So the water is cold, and as the steam increases, the pressure in the lower chamber will increase. And I will replicate that by releasing some air from my balloon inside the bottle. The pipe goes all the way, and as air is going nowhere to go at the moment, the idea is that it will come out from the top of the chamber. But I need to do it slowly.
Yeah.
Otherwise it'll go
Do you
everywhere.
need the lid on?
No, I want to show what happens. So if it really comes inside, actually I can see.
The problem is I've got my new Christmas leggings on. It's not going to go flying, is it, this red
No,
liquid?
she's not a great assistant. Look, can you see? Can you see? This is what happens when
Yes.
the water gets hot and it starts rising. Perfect. Now, I've got a lot of water here. What I'll do, I will remove some of it, and I'll show you what happens once you get to the bottom, so that you know that your coffee is ready. But before I get there, actually I forgot, I wanted to show you also how the release valve works. So I'm going to replicate that. I've got a little drill here, and I'm going to do a little hole. And I'm applying some blue tack as I want to replicate a blockage in the machine, so that will stop anything from coming through. And of course the relief valve is there to avoid any unpleasant surprises and potentially exploding, a bit like a pressure cooker. You have got a relief valve there. So I'm now simulating a blockage in here. I'm going to apply a little bit more blue tack in my hole to pretend that that is my release valve, and I will start releasing a little bit more air into the bottle. I'll place my fingers up here to ensure that no air does come out. There.
Oh, I can hear the air, yeah. Yeah.
So that is what happens effectively. The release valve will let pressure out when there is pressure above, I think is 1.5 bars, which means that the machine operates at 1 bar. So obviously that is your safety zone. So let me show you something else, and then we'll move on to making the perfect cup of coffee. So when do you know that your coffee is ready? The instructions manual will tell you as soon as you hear that noise, it's when your coffee is ready. And I'm going to show you why you hear the noise. So I've removed some of the water, and I'm going to do it again. I will release some air in the bottle. You can see that my water is rising, and I'll let it go gently. I might get in trouble, and I'll carry on. If you look at the bottom of the bottle, the water is reducing in volume, and it might overspill, but at some point it should make that gurgly noise. There it is. I did say I might make a little mess, but you get the gist. I better tidy up before I meet the doghouse.
Big time.
I wasn't very happy. I don't think the noise was loud enough to illustrate the point, and as I made a mess, we panicked. So I wanted to explain really. The reason why it makes that gurgly noise is because as the water reaches the bottom of the bottom chamber and there is no more water to be drawn, it starts making that noise, and that is actually what I wanted to evidence, and that means that the coffee is ready. So I'll do it again, but this time I'll go less water and hopefully it should be okay. Now you can see what I'm talking about. See, there is no more water underneath, and that's the noise. So let's go and make the perfect cup of coffee, and I'll explain why is the perfect cup of coffee. So although Alfonso invented the Moka machine back in 1933, it didn't actually become popular immediately. It's not until the 1950s when his son Renato started working on effectively advertising the product. Also, there was the Second World War in the middle, so things went very, very quiet. So Renato took on the business from his father, and that's when the whole thing exploded, because obviously he used marketing and so on. Also, what Renato did, which was really clever, he introduced the little Moka mustache man, and that resembles Renato. It was designed in 1950, and that became a symbol of Italian coffee, the Moka symbol, which you will find in any Bialetti machine. And in case you're wondering where the word Moka comes from, actually it's a port in Yemen, because back then the Yemen was a big distributor internationally of refined coffee, and the port name is Moka, but not spelled with a K, spelled with a C-H-A, but in Italian that was pronounced Moka, so they put the K in the middle. Now, the perfect cup of coffee, and this is science more than anything else. Start with hot boiling water, and again, as I mentioned before, just go below the valve, and then I'll put the little vessel in here.
May I say, I've learnt a lot. I've been making this coffee for years and years and years, and I've never put hot water in, and neither have any of your family. So we've all been doing it wrong, but don't tell them, obviously.
No, it's not about doing it wrong. It's about understanding the physics of it. So why am I putting hot water? The idea is that the coffee need to be traveling through. Sorry, the water need to be traveling through the coffee, and to stay in a high temperature environment as little as possible. So by starting with hot water, effectively, I'm kind of replicating almost like what a coffee machine does, those espresso machines that you use with pods. If you think about it, you press the button and water comes out immediately, and the coffee goes through the filter. The water goes through the filter and you get immediate coffee. The second rule is to use coffee that is not very fine, like powder, and especially if you're making your own, because what you would be doing, you would be stopping the water from going through, and again, that could also cause the valve to leak over here, because if it's too dense, the coffee will not find its way up very easily, but also you're trapping the water in the lower chamber longer. This is going to be exposed to a high temperature for longer, and you will burn your coffee. The third rule is to not to go mad and tamper this a lot. So just fill it enough so that it reaches the top, like I've done today, and that is enough. Obviously, if you want your coffee to be weaker and you don't want it to be too strong, put in less, but do not tamper it too much. And if you want your coffee to be stronger, just put in more. Build a little mountain, depending on taste, but make sure that it's not powdery. That is really, really important. So it's a little bit between, if you like, icing sugar and sugar, granulated sugar, the consistency of coffee.
But obviously, when you go to the supermarket, all of the coffee,
is already
it
pre-made.
says that it's for espresso machines.
Indeed.
May I point out, my preference would have been to put another spoonful of coffee on there so it's nice and strong, but that's just me.
Yeah, they're personal preferences, absolutely. But as I've put boiling water in the bottom chamber, I'm using now a towel to ensure that I don't burn myself. So, how tight do you do this? You need to remember that eventually you will need to unscrew it, so do not go mad, and just make sure that it's tight enough for it not to leak, and that is perfect. Now this is made of aluminium, and we have got an induction hob, and aluminium doesn't work on induction. So we have purchased this little adapter, which is
my new gadget.
enable us to transmit the heat from the induction into the coffee machine. If you want, as long as if you do have an induction hob and you do not want to buy an adapter, you can use a frying pan, for example, as long as it is compatible for induction purposes, and then you put that in here. Entirely up to you. But we decided to bite the bullet and buy the proper gadget.
Yeah, it wasn't very much money. It was about just under £10. So.
But also you might think that we have a problem, because we have got a number of coffee pots here, and some are in aluminium like this, they're very light. These are in steel, and they would work okay here, but obviously they would not be good enough because it's too small, so you kind of still need some form of an adapter. But you can also buy bigger pots, of course, but it depends how much you like coffee. This is a 4-cup coffee pot, and I'll turn this on just below medium, as I do not want it too hot. The water is hot already anyway, so it will not take very long at all for it to come through. Now, very, very important that the flow of the water is as slow as possible. Although you do not want the coffee to be in there for very long, equally well you want the water to rise as slowly as possible. Some people turn it to maximum thinking that, oh, I'm in a hurry, and they make a coffee very, very quickly. You are spoiling your coffee. Think about it. You've got a filter which is full of coffee, and the slower your water goes up, the more aroma the coffee will be releasing to your water, and the richer will be the taste. It's very, very simple if you think about it. Whereas actually, if you got it very high, beside the fact that you are going to be making this really, really hot and potentially spoiling the coffee even before the water reaches it, also the water will travel through your coffee very quickly, and it will not give the water the chance to enrich itself with a beautiful flavor. So that is really, really important, and you will have a beautiful cup of coffee. So patience is trick here, and this is so typical in Italian. Every Italian kitchen has got one, and
or 10.
or 10, yes. And people drink this in Italy all times of day and night. And you meet a friend, and you go to the bar. Obviously, you will have an espresso. But if people come in to visit you, you immediately have one of those. It's almost like you don't even ask. You just have it on, and they are absolutely
I have
obsessed.
one every morning, don't I, when
Yes.
I'm there? And then if we go to the shop to see a brother, I tend to have one. And if, as you say, if you go in a bar, it's
just a tradition.
And if you Francesco's brother Stefano literally inhales the stuff all day long. I've never seen somebody drink so much coffee. Even at night, after a late meal, 10 o'clock, there he is, the Nespresso, but there we go.
I know. But that is their culture. So take your time. It's part of the beauty of having a cup of coffee using a mocha machine. While I wait, I'll tell you a little bit about the Bialetti family. So Alfonso, he died in 1970. 82?
82, yeah.
82. So it's not a bad age for somebody who was born in 1888. And maybe because he drank a lot of coffee.
Maybe.
But what is nice is that next to his coffin, they put a very large mocha coffee machine as a sign of saying thank you. Whereas Renato, who died in 2016, they placed him inside an urn, the shape of a coffee pot machine, a large one I suspect. And that actually is quite nice in a way, because it's a way of saying thank you. And in the town where they both lived, they still think that every morning when a family make coffee, or espresso coffee, both Renato and Alfonso are watching over them. I think it's beautiful.
Oh, nice.
And let's check, it should be coming out. And there it is, look, it's beginning to come out. And you can see that it's flowing at a beautiful and slow pace, no rush. And I'll leave it open so you can see what happens.
It's getting the little skooma on the top,
Yep.
little foamy bit, which
Little
is what I
foamy bit.
like. Yeah, you always get that in a bar.
Now it's about to reach the end, so I'll close it and you will hear that gurgly noise in a moment.
There it goes.
And there it goes. As soon as you hear it, you just turn it off and it's done. If you've got a gas hob, by the way, turn it on the minimum setting. Gas is a lot more powerful, so very, very minimum. And I was going to say have a cup of coffee while you wait, but have something to eat while you wait.
That's done.
Another important tip, by the way, is not to leave it inside your pot for very long. Same reason, it's really hot, so you want it to enjoy whilst it's hot, but of course, whilst it's inside here, aluminium gets really, really hot. Obviously, you'll continue making it hotter and hotter and potentially burning it. So, how do you do this? I have seen people in England who drink cups of coffee and they fill them to the top. Ironically, in Italy, they don't. By the way, one thing, little tip, this is something that I've seen my mum do, and my aunt and everybody else, they always mix it. I think it's because the first part of the coffee is going to be stronger, and the latter part of the coffee coming out is a little bit weaker. So by stirring it, you are distributing the strength across everything. So let me show you how big is a cup of coffee in Italy. That is pretty much it. And that is what you would get if you were to go into a bar and have an espresso, or if you go around somebody's house and have an espresso. And I like personally a little sugar, so I'm going to add a little sugar. Or also you can add honey if you like. Some people add honey if you prefer, but oops, that's hot, I'm burning myself. Oh. But obviously honey tend to change the taste a little bit, so let's see what this is like. And it's the perfect cup of coffee.
Tell everybody how many of these you like to have a day, dear.
None. I'm not very passionate about coffee in terms of espresso, mostly because growing up in Italy, they had it every day, and I don't particularly crave for it. But when I do have the odd cup, I do enjoy it. What I used to do though, as a child, and that is very common in Italy, My mum used to make the coffee in the morning. She would have had something for 8 people, and we were all children. And just to give you different cultural settings, and she would have coffee for herself and for my dad, and then she would leave the rest on the worktop. As children, we would get up, we would warm up some milk, and we would put a little splash of coffee in our milk, and then we would have it with some biscuits or some briochine, which is little cakes. That is a very typical Italian breakfast. I know it might not sound very healthy, but I'm still here. and that coffee that we used to have in the morning, you could say, oh, caffeine to a child is normal. It's what us children had, and it was delicious.
And how old were you?
12, 13.
Oh, I see. So not really young child.
No, not a very young
In your
child.
teens,
but
more or
even
less,
today, that's what tends to happen in a lot of families. So I'll give Julie a cup, and then I'll show you how to clean it and also how to look after it, ensure that it lasts you a long time, but also you can stay safe. Now, the beauty of coffee is to enjoy when it's fresh, when it's hot, and this is something that again is very commonly done in Sicily. I'm not sure about the rest of Italy, but if you got any leftover coffee, we had some already before, just pour it in a container or little jug, whatever, and you can put it in the fridge and enjoy it cold if you like. But if it is summer and it's really, really hot, what they tend to do over there, they add a little sugar, if they like sugar, they mix it together, and then they put it in the freezer in a suitable bottle, and they have iced coffee, and that actually is really, really nice.
That's lovely.
I really
Because then when you get it out, it's semi-solid, and you give it a good shake, so it becomes a bit like a slush puppy sort of thing.
It doesn't freeze like water. I suspect it's because the coffee prevents it, and that's what they do. So that is a way to use any leftover coffee. And this is actually really important. This is what makes sure that you stay safe, but also your pot lasts a long time. So unscrew it, and I'm going to give you a few tips now. So this is the bottom chamber. All it had was just water. You do not need to use any soap or any soapy water, detergents of any type when you're cleaning a coffee pot. Actually, make sure you don't, because the idea is that the aluminium takes on the spirit, if you like, or the taste of the coffee, and if you use any detergents, potentially you'll be able to taste it. So definitely never use any detergent. So this one, you could just give it a little rinse, but do ensure that when you wash it, you put water in your valve over here and over here, ensure that it's clean, and that is perfect. And whereas here, where your coffee was, if I remove this very gently, and it's still a little bit warm, but that's safe, you can see that this was under considerable pressure, about 1 bar, as I mentioned before, and is solid. So the best thing to do is...
I've got a better tip. You blow through the bottom.
Yeah, I was about to say that, but
then you thought,
I don't think it's a bit warm, I might burn my lips. But if you were to blow it through the bottom, it will just pop out. And what Julie does, she keeps it in a compost bin, and it's perfect for composting, and here it goes. Now this is obviously full of coffee, old coffee, and again all you need to do is put it under some warm water and just wash it. And with the top part of your coffee pot, this is the most important one. I've already given it a little rinse as I wanted to cool down quickly, but ensure that, again, do not use any soapy water, and make sure that it's nice and clean, and ensure that everything is totally dry, bone dry, before you put it away. So I'm going to wash it and I'll show you how I store it. I did say bone dry, and that is exactly what I'm doing, especially if you're not a frequent user. That is because water and bacteria go well together, but also if you were not to dry properly, it will smell. And to avoid that from happening, I tend to put this together like this, leave the little filter out and close it, and then I'll open it, I'll place this here, and I'll keep it like this. And like this, effectively, the air will still circulate through the machine, and it will not get the horrible musty smell that otherwise you would. Let me also show you the parts that you can replace should you need to. So, and there is not a lot. Of course, here is the little valve, and this unscrews, and you can actually replace it very, very easily. You can also buy these if necessary, but they never do go wrong because obviously they are in metal. Very, very common if you go to Italy to find a two-legged stool, the equivalent of a mocha machine or a mocha pot, where often people break the handle or break the little plastic thing on top, and often you find that they are potentially even burning themselves. But
your mum included.
My mum included, yes. And often is when I go back that I go and buy the replacement parts and fix it for them. So, and the reason why they break is because generally, instead of using the metal part to do it, they tend to lever on the plastic and then they break. So ensure that you don't do that. And I wanted to show you also the valve here. Yeah. If I get a knife, and there is a little rubber here, and occasionally this one will obviously wear out, and you will see that actually I think I'm gonna spoil it if I'm not careful. Here, if I go back to my prototype, which I've actually only just put together, there is a little rubber seal, and then there is this little metal filter, and you can see this is the tube which goes to the part up here, and only you can actually buy this relatively cheap. So again, these hardly ever go wrong, but generally if you buy the washer they also sell you this. And it's that simple. You can see only a few components and magic. So if you've seen those mocha coffee pots in shops and always wondered how they work, now you know. And if you were to buy one and make yourself a cup of coffee, don't forget to say thank you, Alfonso, and thank you, Renato, for such a lovely little invention. And also, I hope that you found this video informative. I was thinking about also coffee, and if you would like, I'm happy to do a little research and put together a little video and tell you about coffee, which coffee is best for what, and what is the best coffee in the world. Entirely up to you, really. Let me know in the comments, and I will look into it, even if I don't drink a lot. Arrivederci, grazie. I was about to say buon appetito, but it's not buon appetito. Enjoy your coffee, and thank you for watching. Ciao, ciao.